Welcome to a Gold DPS Proving Grounds guide for Shadow Priests. These are the talents that I recommend taking. These are my glyphs, though they don't have an incredible impact on your success. And my equipment focuses primarily on mastery. Now, Shadow Priests have two things that can give them a fairly easy time in Proving Grounds. That's a combination of having powerful dots and powerful control burst. Now, the dots, of course, are your Vampiric Touch and your Shadow Word Pain, but their powerful burst comes from having a very powerful spellcast in Mind Blast, their powerful Shadow Word Death, which enables easy finishing off of ads, and, of course, their very powerful Devouring Plague. This gives them fairly strong sustain, burst damage and sustain damage. Now, in Wave 2, you've got to deal with your first of a new type of ad, and that is the Illusionary Banana Tosser. Now, what this ad does is he spins around the corner of the room, throwing bananas at you. If these bananas hit you, you take a massive increase. You lose a massive amount of your DPS, as it causes you to miss all of your abilities. And there are two ways of handling this. One is to stick with the monkey ad in this little ring that appears around him. Two, I'm going to just go ahead and interrupt that. Number two is to have to run around and dodge the monkey. Unfortunately, this is rather difficult to do with Shadow Priest, as aside from applying your dots, you have to stand perfectly still. This can make killing these monkeys very difficult, and killing anything in these waves extremely difficult for Shadow Priest, which is why I recommend burning them down as fast as you possibly can. Mow them down the instant the wave starts. The other option that you have to do, sometimes, for example, when you have to deal with one of these big healer ads, is to simply allow the healer to get a heal off, like that, and then burn him down very quickly afterwards. The monkeys don't really have a lot of HP, so enabling them to get a heal off, especially with your dots, isn't too problematic. Especially since Shadow Priests only really have one reliable interrupt, in the form of their silence. While you can, of course, use your Psychic Horror to also interrupt them, this consumes your Shadow Orbs and therefore reduces your overall damage. Thus, I strongly don't recommend it. Now, in this wave, you gotta deal with another new type of ad, and that's the Illusionary Banshees. Now, what these Illusionary Banshees do is whenever they spawn, they have a little timer over their heads. What this timer causes, I'm going to go ahead and just blow Devouring Plague on it just to finish this off quickly. Now, what those timers do is if that timer times out and that ad is still alive, you will instantly fail the wave. It doesn't matter how much time is left over here, you will simply instantly fail. So whatever you do, make sure that the instant those Banshees spawn, you swap to them and you burn them down quickly. If you don't burn them down immediately, then you will fail the wave. Now, in this wave, you've got to deal with two healer ads. Now, and the easiest way to deal with them is to trick them. Whenever the wave first begins, you simply hit a cascade or throw a couple dots out on some of these little ads, and that, of course, drops their health fairly low, which prompts the healers to want to try to heal them. And of course, these ads have so little HP that they're fairly inconsequential as far as, actually finishing them off goes. So the fact that the healers heal them doesn't really matter. And this gives you plenty of time to set up your dots and to mow down both healers. Cascade mostly takes care of these ads on their own. I'm going to go ahead and burn this guy down as quickly as I can. Gotta go up ahead and sit over here on the monkey. I'm gonna go ahead and blow that on this guy. And begin dotting up that. I'm going to go ahead and let that heal get off because unfortunately I don't really have the damage to burn him down. To burn him down through it. Now. He's going to die. And the Banshee dies. And the Amber guy dies just from your dots. This wave 7 can be problematic just because there's a lot you got to deal with. You got to deal with a healer, got to deal with a shield bearer, and got to deal with Banshees spawning. Basically just a whole load of unpleasant things that you got to deal with. Now, thankfully, of course, you can just dot up some of these targets and mow them down, but you need to use a few tricks in Wave 7 to handle stuff, like burning down the ad when he gets struck by the Amber in order to maximize your damage. Now in Wave 8, you've got to deal with this, the first of another new type of ad, and that's the Large Illusionary Shaw. As you can see, I'm not really unloading on him very much right now, simply because he's pretty much invincible. Now you have to wait for that debuff to time out, and then you have to unload on him. Whenever that debuff times out, that's when you've got to completely unload on this ad. If you don't, then the ad simply has too much HP for you to burn. It's completely impossible. So make sure you set up your DPS and unload on him then. And unfortunately, now we gotta go deal with this monkey. Burn him down. And I actually managed to chain my abilities right there and powerfully enough together to completely mow that monkey down before the healer even got his heal off. That made that much easier. You can't always count on that. Sometimes you'll have to move over and, of course, interrupt that healer. But as you can see, by timing your abilities together correctly, you can just mow them down fast. Now in Wave 9 is when I like to start picking up these berserking buffs. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Unload my Devouring Plague. And channel my Mind Seer. And the Mind Seer Insanity really just kind of trivializes this. Mind Blast, and Shadow Word Death, and he goes down, and you have plenty of time to spare. In fact, I think, do we have to deal with another Banshee? No, we don't have to deal with another Banshee. So again, with the Large Illusionary Shaw, there's not really much point to doing anything to them when the wave first spawns. You have to simply sit there and wait for that buff they have on themselves to time out. Once that buff times out, then you can unload on them. And I could blow a Devouring Plague on this guy to speed it up, but in Wave 10, this Masaryk is literally here just to keep you from getting bored at first. As you can see, he's got a protective shield, he has a lot of HP, and with that shield going, with how much HP he is, there's really not a lot of point to unloading DPS. I'm only kind of DPSing him because there's nothing else to do. You pretty much just have to sit and wait, hold on to your DPS, get ready for, of course, a Banshee spawning. Mow the Banshee down, and pick up that ad, and here you can go ahead and just blow your Shadow Fiend on him, channel your Mind Seer, unload your dots on him again, one more Mind Blast, Shadow Word Death, and I'm just going to go ahead and channel Mind Seer Insanity on that, and down it goes. As you can see, Shadow Priests don't have an incredible amount of trouble in proving ground, simply because they can unload so much burst on the critical ads that you have to blow up really quickly, and have dots, which can handle, of course, the spread out ads around also very easily. So make sure to spread out those ads, and don't be afraid to sit on your Shadow Orbs. If you don't think you necessarily need them, go ahead and sit on them. You don't need to be blowing Devouring Plague on every single ad. It's very important that you use that to blow up those monkeys quick. The primary weakness of Shadow Priest is that almost all of your damage, even your dots, require you to sit still. And Shadow Priests don't really have any cooldowns or abilities to really use to keep themselves in motion and still do their DPS. So make absolutely certain that you take out those monkeys fast. Preferably before a healer can even get a heal off, or if the healer does get a heal off, you have enough damage set up on them to take them out immediately afterwards. Beyond that, dot everything up, and clear the waves. I hope this guide helps, and thanks for watching.